The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a masterpiece demonstration of modern writers' inability to separate fictional and real-world politics. A story that was supposed to be set amid the fallout of the blip damned near forgot about the blip entirely, so obsessed was it with cramming in as many faddish progressive bromides as possible. To criticize the largely fictitious problem of redlining, it laughably pretended that Avengers had no money. To propagate its black martyrdom myths, it decided that everybody who didn't notice or care that there were black people in the Avengers suddenly noticed, cared, and disliked that there were black people in the Avengers. Having given Sam the shield because he was black, they used their own show to argue with people who noticed they'd given him the shield because he was black. Having nominally justified that choice because Sam was Steve's wingman, they had him repudiate Steve's values of personal virtue, self-reliance, and the pursuit of the right even when the country is in the wrong, in favor of a speech imploring politicians to take care of all of the world's problems. And to squeeze in protest placard quality slogans about refugees, the show overlooked that the refugees it created and championed were pretty happy with the notions of mass theft and genocide.
You have to stop calling them terrorists.
Yeah, fuck you, they were terrorists. The MCU was right, as I've said, to ditch that kind of fourth wall breaking preachy nonsense. The problem is, and I do suspect we're in for a lot more of it over the next few years of movies, is that studios seldom see a lesson without learning the wrong one. The answer to subordinating fictional to real-world politics is not to ditch fictional politics, it's to enforce the separation between these two distinct categories. Movies and shows the director claims as his inspiration for whatever movie he thought he was making, 3 Days of the Condor, The Manchurian Candidate, Point Blank, The Wire, they all have internal politics. It is very hard to make a political espionage conspiracy thriller without politics. But the rules for such productions are similar to the rules that make for the best political satire. In none of Yes Minister, Yes Prime Minister, The Thick of It, In the Loop, Veep, and so on, do you ever learn which party is in power, because these shows satirize, amongst other things, the degeneracy of the party system of government. Particulars might provide color, but universals provide core content. Corruption, skullduggery, and venality cross party political lines. And the same holds in thrillers like Condor, where the sinister machinations of shady groups with a penchant for extrajudicial killing are a threat to the hero, who is a stand-in for every man. The politics, subtextual or textual, is that villains threaten us, and where government is party to villainy, it is seen to be betraying the nation as a whole. This is hard to pull off though when your politics as a writer are the type espoused in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which demonstrates a paradoxical faith in government and disdain for the nation it governs. If your real gripe is with the people of your nation, and with the ideals of the nation itself, then protecting these things from the man is unlikely to be your primary concern. A universalist political thriller where the government must be protected from the voters is, put politely, a quixotic proposition. Speaking of quixotic propositions, you're often told when reviewing some slop bucket movie that it's as if the thing was written by AI. But this is not true. The sad fact of the matter is that AI has much more respect for quality and continuity than the kind of useless humans now employed to write major Hollywood productions, which is why the Writers Guild of America went on strike to stop its talentless hacks being replaced by computers. Doubt this contention? Well, that's where this video's sponsor comes in. Polybuzz is a chatbot AI with over 1 million downloads that allows you to speak to many of the world's most colorful, real, and fictional people. Hey, Donnie T, how would you save the MCU? Oh, the movies. Well, I'd start by cutting out all the political correctness nonsense and make it great again. Add more patriotic action scenes and bring back some classic villains. I think he might have a point. What an interesting suggestion. Which villain best represents the MAGA agenda, Mr. President? Wait, what? Red Skull? Listen, love him or hate him, the man, he has takes. There are more than 20 million characters with whom you can chat for free. If you think the database is missing some important and obscure person from history, or would benefit from a character from your own warped imagination, you can make them yourself. Create their look, their personality, personality, their voice, their background, and either keep them locked in your digital dungeon for private use or inflict them upon the world. You can give this a trial run, including a whole bunch of premium features, if you go to the link in my description and use my code CORD. All chats are private, confidential, and unrestricted, within the confines of community standards, of course. Polybuzz is available across Android, iOS, and via its website, and it has a grading system to ensure its content is suitable for the age of the user. Whether you're into roleplay, character creation, or just looking for memes, Polybuzz is a pretty fun way to spend your time. Once again, you can give Polybuzz a go, including premium features like a better AI model with longer memory, zero ads, and unlimited chats by going to the link in my description and using my code CHORD. And now back to this disaster.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like, it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable.
It's perfectly possible, desirable even, to tell a story where your hero and your villain battle to represent your country and its ideals, which I suspect is what we were supposed to get, hence those trailer shots of Stearns dressed as Uncle Sam. This is kind of what we got with The Winter Soldier and with Civil War as well, which pits Steve Rogers and his quintessentially American soul against the American state as it had become. Winter Soldier set known rights and ancient liberties against a national security state that acceded without realizing it to the premise of its enemies, that freedom is the problem.
We're gonna neutralize a lot of threats before they even happen.
Thought the punishment usually came after the crime.
We can't afford to wait that long. For once, we're way ahead of the curve.
By holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection.
In the name of good, the state accrued to itself so much power that the enemy could waltz in through the front door and find all his work had been done for him. The theme of Winter Soldier is an expression of Benjamin Franklin's famous saying, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Captain America Civil War added nuance to this by correctly discerning that the demands of freedom and control are impossible to fully reconcile. Both Tony and Steve have good points, and the movie gives each the space to make them, resolving as it does with the conclusion that there is no perfect resolution. But in both cases, the dilemma, which is philosophical but also absolutely political, is both perfectly diegetic and admirably universal. It makes sense in its universe, and it is relatable to everybody in ours. But nobody at that time doubted that Steve Rogers as Captain America represented the best of America. The clue is in the name. The version of Sam Wilson created by The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, on the other hand, took Anthony Mackie's reflexive cultural cringe, the instinct to separate your nation from its highest ideals, and applied it to the nth degree. What, in the version of this movie that got panned by test screen victims, was the argument between Stearns and Sam supposed to be? You're fighting for a moral abyss, an ethical shit-stained nation, a corrupt and abusive system, says Stearns. Yeah, I guess, says Sam, but that's why the senators gotta do better. None of this is to say that your heroes shouldn't doubt themselves and their values from time to time. Superheroes, by their very nature, are excellent vehicles to interrogate first principles. Think Matt Murdock versus Frank Castle in their rooftop debate in Daredevil. But an American audience has every right to expect that Captain America should, in the end, embody the best of the American people, the best values of the nation, and not conclude that the American people are racist bigots who need to do better. I was about to call this the unspoken subtext of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but actually, it's spoken explicitly and repeatedly. There is no contradiction between the national and the universal when your nation is founded to embody the universal. It is only because of the high ideals of the American founding that we can say definitively when it fell short. Nobody in Britain prefers Captain Britain to Captain America because Captain America speaks to the best in us as well. So, there is no no reason whatsoever that Captain America 4 couldn't have kept cogent internal politics in its political thriller without indulging in the type of writing that is masochistic about its own culture and sadistic in inflicting Captain Kendi on its audience. Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Contessa de Fontaine, as head of the CIA, cynically manipulating the criminal serpent society to steal adamantium from her own government would perfectly fit the kind of Manchurian point-blank condor model the director claims were his inspirations. While audiences probably are much more attuned to and skeptical of even the faintest whiff of political posturing these days, given it stunk the place out for many, many years, I'm pretty sure enough of them understand the difference between diegetic universal politics and non-diegetic partisan lecturing. If the test scores were truly so poor because of the movie's politics, it's probably because Captain America went around calling us all racist again while the sympathetic villain was excused for his mass murder because his critique of American capitalism was actually spot on. But overreacting to that criticism, junking the non-diegetic lecturing but throwing out the diegetic in-universe politics along with it, as seems to have happened to this movie, left us with a broken and empty shell of a film with nothing to say and nothing worth grabbing onto. Generic villains steal massively important adamantium, more on that in later movies, I guess, under orders from evil Dr. Crotchrot to get back at a president with no policies because he vaguely wronged him maybe 2 decades ago, I guess. Yeah, how fucking forgettable. That brings us, inevitably and at long last, to the film's titular character, Captain Falcon. Sam Wilson was always a bad choice to take up the shield. A perfectly serviceable wingman for the Captain America, there really wasn't enough, in his whopping 30 minutes of screen time across phases 2 and 3, to get anybody interested in what story might be told with him, because there was no evidence there was a story to tell with him. Bucky Barnes, having been at or near the center of 2 important movies, was the natural narrative successor, a super soldier so capable of Steve Rogers' physical feats, but would he have had the mental strength to shoulder all the baggage he brings? How would the country react to the Shield of America being held by a man who was once the most lethal agent of the Soviet Union, the man who killed JFK? Can Bucky overcome his past? Can America forgive and forget? There is tremendous story potential in both his self-doubt and the doubts of the nation and the world that he serves, and a natural hero's journey arc that begins with the refusal of the call and culminates in his return with the elixir, having proven both to himself and to the world that he is worthy to inherit the mantle. Importantly, and in contradistinction to Sam Wilson, significant work was done setting all of this up for Bucky across phases 2 and 3. Sam, on the other hand, he had to be reinvented, pretty much from scratch. The MCU by the time of Endgame was already showing signs of things to come. Baffling story choices determined by nothing more integral to its narrative than vague socio-political gesturing. If you'd asked Steve Rogers why 2 minutes after giving Sam the shield he had made the choice he made, I'm pretty sure he'd have said something like,
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
But Endgame's writers didn't bother trying to put themselves in the mind of a man they thought would be gone for good once the end credits appeared 5 minutes later. They just thought it'd look good to have him give the shield to a black man for the vibes. And so that's what happened. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was then the first chance to actually give Sam the character of a Captain America. It was the writer's first chance to decide what kind of hero he would be. And oh my God, did they cock it up. Where Bucky would have had the story-natural distrust of those who, in universe, remember what he did and who he used to fight for, Sam Wilson was given the story-unnatural post-hoc burden of racist America to overcome. It is damned near impossible to trace a line between a Sam Wilson who braved arrest to support Steve Rogers, a Sam Wilson who looked up to and admired the ideals Steve represented, and the Sam Wilson who gave moral cover over to terrorists, blamed the country for all his problems, and demanded that the government fix everything for him in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The Sam Wilson who refused to sign the Sokovia Accords would not have looked at the Global Repatriation Council and said, "Yeah, you'll be fine just as long as you exercise your unchecked power properly." If it seems especially absurd that Sam Wilson did all these things in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's because the superhero genre is the natural home of those who value personal merit, virtue, duty, responsibility, and the individual spirit, and yet the genre has been taken over by people who disdain all of these things. Taken to its logical end point, the worldview of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier would have no need of superheroes, because it would have social programs instead. Equity eliminates saints and sinners alike. Terrorists can be cured with a little income redistribution. We can fix supervillains with the administration of a little government assistance. Damn near all of that cancerous sludge was chemoed out of Brave New World, thankfully, but this created another problem. We didn't know why Sam got the shield in Endgame. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to answer that question and define what type of Captain America he would be. Excise that show, pretend it didn't happen, remove its themes, get rid of its conclusions, switch Sam back to the blank slate he was at the end of Endgame, and you're back to square one. Why does Sam have the shield? What kind of Captain America is he? What values does he embody? And the answer is, he's got a cool suit. This really does need stressing. This was a Captain America movie. Yet what journey did Captain America go on in this Captain America movie? Well, he started out kicking ass and being awesome and invincible and right about everything. From there, he progressed into kicking ass and being awesome and invincible and right about everything. For about 5 minutes toward the end of the movie, he arbitrarily developed self-doubt. Oh, he said, I should have taken the super serum, like Steve did, and like you did, Bucky, because that's the only reason you're capable of fighting the foes you fight. This is the lesson I learned from fighting side by side with you for many years. I reduced you to the super serum. Ho hum, if I'd taken that super serum, maybe Eagle Twink wouldn't have face-planted an ICBM. But then he was reminded by Congressman-elect Bucky Barnes, no less, that he does indeed kick ass and is awesome and invincible and he's right about everything. Confidence restored, he awesomely and invincibly and rightly beats the big bad. Then he goes to visit Eagle Twink in hospital, where he is outright told that he is awesome and invincible and right about everything. The Sam Wilson who lost a wingman in Afghanistan, who got beaten up by the Winter Soldier, who lost to fucking Ant-Man, who got Rhodey paralyzed from friendly fire, who got blipped because the Avengers failed to stop Thanos, he tells poor Eagle Twink, smarting from his own failure, that he, Sam Wilson, Captain America, the invincible, the awesome, the strong, the right about everything, he never fails. Because to fail is to be a failure and fail all the people who rely on you. That is not something a truly awesome and invincible and right about everything character does. That is not something our new Captain America does, because that's just the kind of guy he is. Awesome, invincible, and right about everything. If he were a woman, we'd call him a Mary Sue. What made Steve Rogers interesting was the man, not the muscles. Steve was arguably the weakest of the superpowered Avengers team, being basically a taller and faster man. But the qualities he had when he was the shorter, weaker, slower, asthmatic kid from Brooklyn were what made him the ideal leader of the group and the ideal role model for people around the world to look up to. The courage, the modesty, the self-sacrifice of an older America played off brilliantly against the genius, the ego, and the selfish brilliance of a more modern mascot, whose technology and resources nonetheless empowered Steve to do many of the things he did. But the all-important thing was that if you took away the shield, Steve Rogers was still Steve Rogers.
That shield doesn't belong to you. You don't deserve it. My father made that shield.
If you take away the suit from Sam Wilson, if you simply stop calling him Captain America, what is he? Well, he just kind of exists. And to think they want him to lead the Avengers.